we'll just roll with it, right? And then we have Barry, who has been a long-time member of, how many years?
Almost the beginning.
Almost the beginning.
At least 20 years.
And Diane's been here for many, many years as well. So, Casey, why don't you just introduce yourself and give us an idea of why you're here today? Just give us a little bit of insight of why you're...
Like I was telling Craig, I've been here since almost the beginning, going back to VHS. Then we went from VHS to mini cassettes, and now we're doing HD. So it's like I'm starting all over again. And like I was just telling these two that if you don't use it, you lose it. That's
Why
like
don't you tell us? Very know him pretty well, but there's probably some things they don't know about. I've been in video production for well over 20 years. I started off in news, worked there for approximately 6 years, working at Channel 12. Then I moved over to the teaching side of it. I taught in high school for a couple of years, and then I moved over into the wonderful world of photography and taking school pictures for nearly 13 years. And then I ended up here for the past a little over a year now. But all that time, I continue to do my own video productions on the side. So I do a lot of projects for myself, for organizations, for schools and businesses, things along that line. So it's about 22 years. So that's kind of my brief history, my brief resume, I guess, so to speak. We are a nonprofit television station. I'm not sure what they told you in the tour or whatever, but basically we are here to allow people to have a voice. You can share pretty much any content you want. Again, like I said earlier, we put the content on our channels, on our social media platforms, on YouTube, things of that nature. Okay, so you can come in here and produce a show, go edit it. All that can be done right here. If you're into podcasting or YouTube or whatever the case is, we can help you put some stuff together, and then we can get that. We can put that on our channels. We're on 1021, channel 1021 on the Spectrum in the city of Erie, and we're on channel 2 on VelocityNet, which covers part of the county. We're going to go through this. If you want to, kind of follow along here in your manual. There's going to be a short quiz at the end. We'll try to give you some hints as to what is really important. So you might want to notate that on your paperwork as we go. A live event, and we had to have our camera operators, because we were live for I don't know 5+ hours. We had to have our camera operators, constantly in contact with us to let us know what was going on out here, if somebody needed something, whatever the case was, because we didn't have time necessarily to come out here and have a full-fledged discussion with them. So this button here is really important, PTT. If you press it quick, kind of twice, it will light up orange, and that will allow you to communicate with the director. If you press it once, it should go out, and at that point you won't be able to talk to them. In addition to that, the other important thing is this control knob over here on the side. Okay, this is your volume control. So this controls how loud or quiet the audio is coming into the headset. It'll go in, you can kind of see up on the monitor there. If I press it the other way, it zooms that back out. Okay, so that's how you would zoom in or zoom out. Is this AF button, stands for autofocus. These cameras are not set up like you would typically have, on your cell phone or, a smaller handheld camcorder, or as Barry knows, like we have field cameras that you can take out and you can, take out of the building and utilize for a shoot, where it's all set up to autofocus and you don't have to worry about it. This guy here, you actually have to press it down and hold it. A square box will come up and then it will focus. Okay, so depending on what I'm trying to focus on, you press and hold it down for about 3 seconds and then the image will kind of focus. So you constantly they can be a little bit deceiving, because I'm looking at it right now and it's showing that the picture in the back and the chairs are both in focus, which kind of seems a little bit weird because you have a lot of button up here. This, depending on what you're trying to do, this will control how fast or slow the zoom is. So if you turn it the one way, it will zoom in a lot faster. If you turn it the other way, it'll zoom slower. That's just your preference depending on what type of a project you might be doing. There's a switch on the side there, but the iris button, those that say not active, we actually control all of that in the control room. So if you're sitting back there, you would have the ability to actually control those, increase the brightness on the camera. We record everything back there. The two people that are sitting in the chairs, that's a tight shot, is the third one down there. Those can be interchangeable. Just depends on, your director as to what they want to say it. A lot of times I might say, can you give me a close-up on one? Can you give me a close-up on, Casey? I might say, can you tighten up, on Casey or whatever. So there's some terminology that kind of changes a little bit there. Wolf.
Hey, it's Todd, and today we're going to talk about the rules of composition.
The rules of, shooting everything on a smartphone. A lot of people will shoot this way on it. Why? Because it's easy. The record button is right there by your thumb. You can hit it, stop, start, or whatever. The phones aren't necessarily set up to record, horizontally in terms of functions and features and things of that nature. Probably because it's more made for social media, and there's different apps require different things, and it looks better. But when you're looking at video, as he said in there, we see the world horizontally. So just kind of keep that in mind, especially if you're utilizing, a cell phone. Our camera's over here. This guy here, you would loosen that up, and it's a little tall there. For the most part, you shouldn't have to worry about it when you're in here. It's something just to kind of be aware of in case something gets kind of messed up or whatever the case is. You just loosen that, and then you just, as he showed you in there, just kind of put there's a little bubble like you would on a level center and out. A lot of people, they seem to leave more headroom than not enough, or than not enough, and it looks bad. You want to try and fill your frame with it. So if you look at these, there are lines in here that help kind of guide. Is at the top of that smaller box, you're safe. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. You can actually probably get the top of the head in between those lines is probably the perfect spot. But if you got any distance between the smaller box and the top of somebody's head, you probably, it's basically just dividing that screen up into 3 parts, okay? And generally, if you're conducting an interview, you would primarily use that because you want to see your subject looking, off the screen, okay? If they're looking, they're talking to somebody. So if you're conducting an interview, you want that person to be talking to the person that's being interviewed, okay? If you are recording something where you know that you want to put words or graphics or logos or something like that, that would be another time where you want to put your subject on one side so that you have all this room. Or if you have something that you want to highlight, a picture, a video, something, you're going to want to offset them so that it's not covering up that particular. Basically, you want to have your camera at least at eye level, slightly above is perfect. You don't want it down too low unless there's as he showed in there, like a music video, like you're wanting to make somebody look, dominant or more important, but so it's a little confusing, the video. Even for somebody that has as much, experience as I have, I can follow it, but first time I saw it, I'm like, okay, it may be a little bit confusing to the people that, have limited experience. But basically, what this rule states is to try and keep all of your cameras on one side of whatever you're shooting, okay? So as you see out here in our studio, we have 3 cameras. We're shooting the stage here. All of our 3 cameras are on this side. We don't have any cameras that are like behind the chairs or behind the window. And the reason we do that is because it causes confusion when you're watching it as to where people are, where certain things are, where they're looking at different things. You want to try and keep that consistent. Anytime they broadcast any of those, they're all from one side or from one, side of the field. Imagine a football game if you had, so let's say these 3 cameras are your cameras. Let's say you had 2 of them on this side and your 3rd camera was on the opposite side of the field. What would happen is the team would be going in this direction when you're showing these 2 cameras, and then when you switch to the other camera, they're going to be going this direction. And you'll be like, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. They're going to be going towards one end zone, and then they're going to flip the other camera, and they're going to be going back to what appears to be the opposite end zone. Okay, so it's confusion. Imaginary line, okay, that's what they'll reference. So like here, again, we have an imaginary line between the cameras and what we're recording. And you always want to keep that imaginary line. Even if you have to move the cameras around, in this they reference a movie. And you'll see how they kind of move, And as they move the cameras, they still keep that imaginary line between them and the subject.
Importance to the 180-degree rule.
When we say 2, gives us enough time to hit that. We do not want to have verbally, we do not want to hear or have the, I guess we don't want to be caught, bless you. We don't want to get caught with saying 1 on air. So we leave a little bit of a buffer there so that our audio operator, when we give them the cue, will tell them stand by and we'll count them down. And then I say, okay, open mic, cue him 1, 2, or whatever. So if he opens that mic, there's a potential that you're going to catch your camera operator saying 1. Just like at the poetry thing. I'm up there and I'm hitting a button. And so if I say 2 and 1, and then I hit the button, there's potential that I'm going to get, they're going to hear me say 1. And it just doesn't sound good. 4, 3, 2, like that. So far enough down so that they're not going to, your hands aren't going to come up in front of the lens, but so that it's below the lens so that they're going to be looking in this direction when they're. And your fill light's going to be a little bit less or not as powerful. Your backlight, or maybe referred to as a hair light, is kind of like what we have here over Diane. So right where Diane's feet are is where we had the our subject. And so that light was hitting the back of their head. These lights here, these 2, this little guy here, and this guy here, were all positioned to light up that subject. Okay. There are 3 areas that we basically have set up that you can utilize. So if you just want to kind of follow me back here.
I'll get on this left side.
You can kind of just step in there and take a look. Very simple, very easy. You just flip them on and there are, I think there's a couple that aren't marked. We're going to talk about how you tie those in or you hook those up so that we can get that into the audio board. Any microphone is a good option. Okay, there's no one case or this mic is don't use this mic or use this mic for this. It all just kind of depends on what your situation. Get into it. If you look on your sheet there, the first type of mic we have is what we call a shotgun mic. Okay, it's usually usually long. They make some shorter ones. This is a pretty long one. And this type of a mic here, this is what we used in the movie. Okay, and it will allow us to pick up sound where we don't have to place any microphone directly in front of people. So we would put it on a stand like this, and loose there. We can extend out the arm. You know, we would tilt it down. That's what we call an XLR cable. Each end, it has two ends. One has pins, the other has holes, okay? You're going to identify what the mic has. They should have 3 pins. They all have them. So there should be 3 pins on the mic side. So you're going to take the side that has the 3 holes. You're going to line them up, press in. You should hear a click. And then to release, there's a button here. You're going to press that down and pull out. Okay, so for this mic here, just going to kind of push that in. And we'll take our other end. And we have this big box here. We're going to find, I'm just going to line those up, push down until it clicks. Okay, snake. Okay, an audio snake. And if you follow the cable, it goes down there, coils up into a big pile of cable, and then it proceeds and it runs under our stage, and it actually runs directly into our audio board. Okay. Each number is indicated by the numbers that are associated on the audio board. Okay. So interview like we had over here with Mary and Diane. You're sitting there, we're going to put this on. Just kind of clip it on your shirt there. And as Tom likes to say, I never heard this reference until we were working here. I've known Tom for 20 years, so he likes to say, we place it around your heart because you talk from your heart. It's a good way of remembering it, I guess. Most guys, they generally have, a shirt like this, like Barry's shirt or whatever, where it's nice and easy to clip on. Women it can become an issue. If you look at what Diane has on here, putting a microphone on her might present some challenges, although I think your sweater, that's 2 layers. Yeah, okay. What we refer to as a handheld mic. It's your, typical kind of interview style microphone, where if you're conducting kind of the man on the street, you don't have time to necessarily get on a mic and, work with all of that. And you're just kind of, out there interviewing people as they go by or whatever the case is. It's used in the news a lot. They meet up with somebody and, you put the microphone out in front of them as you ask them a question, and they respond, and, they go on their merry old way. Like a forum or a panel discussion. And you have multiple people sitting at a table. Maybe we set microphones in front of them here so that not. I go out in the parking lot here and I got the noise at 12th Street and I place this, out in front of them. It'll do a decent job. It won't be as good as this or this one here. The first thing you're going to do, there's 3 main switches here. Okay, we're just going to flip those on. Okay, it will turn on the majority of the stuff. So that would be the first thing that you do is turn those on. We have a laptop over here that you'll need to have on because the software works with the switcher. So we'll turn that up, turn that on. The password is the same as everything we use. I'll show you where we go from that in a moment here. And then the other thing is, there is this button here that it says input, and you have to kind of double click it in order to bring this other TV monitor up, okay? So those are kind of the things that you kind of want to reference. We're going to start with our audio board here, okay? Let me back here. Controls the speakers out in the studio, and generally, if somebody wants to hear, especially if they're musicians or whatever, we'll turn that on. Just a big button there, and then there's some volume control knobs that you know, how loud or soft it is, and then these guys here. These are the speakers here so that you can hear in here. There's also this here, which is another speaker. We do have a podcast booth directly behind us. If they are in there recording, a lot of times I will suggest we just turn on this speaker and keep it relatively low, because right now we don't have enough insulation to keep the sounds separate as well as we'd like. The first thing we're going to reference, and this is vastly important, are all these blue knobs here, okay? And I guess before I get into that, I'm just going to reference that this looks, you know, fairly intimidating, and we're going to try and simplify it for what the basic needs are without getting into a lot of the, you know, ins and outs of what different things do, okay? So these blue knobs here, as you see, they're numbered 1 through 16. Same thing down here, 1 through 16. Again, that references what we have plugged into the audio snake there. Knob to be in about the 2 o'clock position. So the picture there does not have it in the 2 o'clock position, and has it more in the, I don't know, 11 o'clock. So for our specific purposes, we want it in that position, okay? That adjusts the what's called the gain level, and we want to make sure that that's in the right position there, and that is to minimize the noise or to avoid distortion. If it's turned up too high, you might get feedback. For the majority of the time, you want to keep it in that 2 o'clock position and only adjust it if absolutely necessary. Okay. Okay. And these are what you're going to turn on in order to have your mics. And so if we're plugged into 1, we're going to slide that up. We're going to start right around where this says U. There's a black line. It references unity gain or 0 dB. I've always remembered we want to have that start on that U or around 0 there. And then depending on how loud or soft your individual's talking, we'll slide it up or bring it down, okay? Until you bring this main up, it's not going onto the recording, okay? So this guy here, again, I would start him off at 0 or unity, adjust as necessary, but this main will adjust all of these. So if you have multiple mics, so if you don't want that, if you just want to have, you know, one person lower than the other, you're going to want to adjust these independently. So if you want, you know, if you have multiple people on there and you want to turn a mic off, it's as simple, instead of sliding everything down, and because maybe you got your levels as to where you want those to be, and instead of having to remember them or reset them, you know, if somebody, we're just turning a mic off because we don't want to hear them, just clicking that mute button will allow you to do that.
That's what they did to Trump, muted him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, during the debate.
Mute.
So that is pretty much all you need to know. There are some other things if you want to put some music or whatever. We have a few groups that come in here and they plug in. We have this cable here that you can plug in your phone or stereo or whatever the case is, and we can get some music. I think it's this guy here. He kind of controls that. So if you want to put some music behind them, we have a praise and worship team that comes in here almost every week, and they have some background music going. So there's this guy here. We can kind of help you with that, and we kind of utilize those speakers out there so that they can kind of hear the music going as they're talking. But those are things that we can help you out with when you get a production going. I'm going to skip over the graphics here. We'll come back to that. We're going to skip over the switcher. We'll come right back to that. We're going to go to the recording section here. So as far as recording, there's two different ways to record here. We have this one here on the top, and then we have this one down at the bottom here. The one on the bottom we primarily use, and it uses a standard SD card. They're fairly inexpensive, less than $10 depending on the size. It has it's a class 10. It has a little like half circle. It looks like a C with a 10 in the middle of it. It should say it on the packaging when you get it. Most of the SD cards are class 10s. There are some class 4s out there. They will not work for video recording. So as far as the size go, 32 would be the smallest I would go with. 64 is probably ideal. I don't know, 20 some odd minutes. So just depending on how much stuff you want to save. So if you're going to record multiple episodes and you want to kind of hold on to those for this up here is a solid state drive. Those are a little more expensive. I want to say a 250 gig drive is, I don't know, $50 or something like that. Really invest in one of these because they're easier to edit off of as opposed to an SD card.
What is that called?
It's a solid state drive with SSD. I can grab one. Well, it looks like this. It's basically what comes in a laptop. So on these, it'll say SSD. Yeah, you can get them at Best Buy. When you put it in, it should turn green. We'll have to format it the first time that you utilize it here. Same thing with this, we have to format it. But these are more stable and they work faster and smoother with the editing. You can put it all together on one. However, if you ever need to format this, it's going to erase all your projects. So it's a good idea to have your recordings on one and your projects on another. Okay. Now you've lost your project. So you always want to have
Backup.
You want to have one thing designated just for your recordings, and then your other would be your editing. And when you take the editing classes, we teach you. You'll take this, whether it's a field camera that we take out or in here, You just do all your recordings on this, and then when you get into the ed bay, we'll have you transfer this onto here, and then set up your projects and whatnot. Okay? So in terms of this deck here, we're gonna slide it into slot 1. It just has to be formatted. The second slot is a carryover, so if you wanted to get 232 gigs or whatever, when this one runs out, this one will pick up. Okay. So you're gonna hit menu, a picture there. Okay. So your recorder there now. Okay. You know, it's probably very important for you to know, you know, where the record button is. That's simply this this 0 or this circle. You want to press that. When you press it, it should turn red, and this slot should also be red. If you look up in the corner here, it flashes between card 1 and the remaining time. So right now it's saying 1 hour and 28 minutes. So this is a 32 gig card. So you have almost 1 hour and a half, 1 hour and 28 minutes. I'll show you how all this magically comes in. So all of those cables that we have out there that are attached to the cameras come all the way into this wonderful video mixer or switcher, it will be referenced as. Make sure that I stay on time. The audio board can look very intimidating. It's all its buttons and everything, and you're probably thinking to yourself, wow, what do I press and how do I do the stuff we're not even going to utilize? Okay. All you need to worry about are these 2 sets of buttons. Really the first 3 or 4 of them. And so if you look down at the bottom, there's a number. There are 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 8. Again, we only have 4 cameras here. That's including the one with the teleprompter on there. So as I press them, in order to make that happen, you can hit 1 of 2 buttons over here, either a cut or an auto. And now we have this camera over here and this camera over there. Okay. You can use a combination of the 2, or, you know. New style shows use more cuts. Documentary style might use more, you know, or a talk show type thing might use dissolves. I don't know. I mean, it's
Personal preference.
I think, yeah, it's kind of personal preference. And so that really, in a nutshell, is all you have to really worry about. There is a fade to black and FTB button. If I hit that, references their title. Again, you look at the colors and the background, and everything is uniform in terms of the color scheme. And you know, these, we have some that we can change in here, but this is stuff that we would create in Photoshop. But like I said earlier, it also is important to have this turned on and up and running, because it helps control the switcher. So this is kind of the last thing I'm going to talk about. So when you turn this on, there's an icon here that's it's a red circle with, I don't know, white and black, and it's got a little, like, looks like a person. It's ATEM software control. ATEM. You're gonna double click on that, and it's gonna bring up some screen. I don't know. I don't know if it's the last one it was on or whatever. The first thing you're gonna want to do, this kind of ties into when we're talking about lighting. and the color temperatures and whatnot, you're gonna wanna go up to File and then Restore. And then it should bring up a list of different preset templates. Okay, now this can be confusing. I always on green screen with background from Media Player 1. Studio Camera 2 with teleprompter to add green screen in post-production. You know, the one that we're on right now is Studio 3 cameras on main stage. Okay, so you have to kind of read through these and figure out, is this something that I'm going to do afterwards? Am I doing it on green screen? Am I doing it on the stage? Am I utilizing a teleprompter? Am I not? Okay, so again, we can help you out with this to identify which one works for your specific situation. So this here, I'm just going to kind of do this for fun. If I go, studio cameras, add green screen in post-production. I click on it and then I click open. And that's going to bring me up to another screen here, and it's going to ask me to restore, and look what's going to happen to the camera. Okay, they changed. Okay, they got darker. The color may have changed. It's hard for me to tell on this, but this is set up for a green screen. Okay, so the lighting is all on it too. Should be working. There we go. So, yeah. I don't have enough fingers. So as I move it around, we can control the. There we go. That's I was hitting the wrong way. Okay, we can control the brightness and the darkness. So when I talked about the cameras out there, you're not having to worry about controls here where we can increase the overall brightness. We can bring it up or we can bring it down. Okay, so if something's not looking right, we can adjust that. And again, these are things. Get tab here. There is, if you click on that and then on the C drive, there are different folders. Let's see, maybe it's the D drive. There should be there's a folder here that's called Members Graphics. And so these are some of the graphics that our members, they're a generic one, so one of these two. And then you're going to see it change over here in these, where it says Media Player 1 and Media Player 2. And then this is 1, this is 2. If I click on it, it brings it up. And we can go into Photoshop. And we can just put that there. I'm not sure what that has on it. Insert page title here, huh? That's interesting. So maybe you had a name of a program or something like that, and we can have